Hello students, welcome back to our lesson useful and harmful microbes. Okay, we will continue with the same lesson. Yesterday I introduced the lesson to you all day. We'll be doing the next part of the lesson. Let's see how it goes. Yes. Useful and harmful microbes. Alright, today we'll be learning about the rhizobium, which is nothing but a symbiotic bacteria. Rhizobium, a symbiotic bacteria. Rhizobium. Rhizobium, a symbiotic bacteria. Alright. Now here one new word is coming up for you, that is symbiotic. But let me just introduce that rhizobium and then I'll come to the symbiotic part of the topic there. Alright. Rhizobium is a symbiotically living bacteria with leguminous plants. This also leguminous. Yes, all the pulses, leguminous plants, which belong with pulses and all, alright? Pulses, yes. Leguminous plants, symbiotically is a living bacteria with leguminous plants like beans. You all must have seen beans, okay? Peas, soya bean, alright. These are all leguminous plants there, alright. All pulses you can say. And even if you see green leafy vegetables like fenugreek. Fenugreek is nothing but methi, and very commonly used one. Let me tell you, you can also add over here the groundnut, alright. Groundnut. These are all places where you are able to see the growth of the rhizobium bacteria. Alright children, and rhizobia, they live in the root nodules. Okay, yes, they live in the root nodules. Okay, there are small knotted structures like this in the plants over there. These are called as what? Nothing but the root nodules. Yes, rhizobia live in such parts called as the root nodules. Alright. Now we are going to come to that word symbiotic. I am just relating that topic to you there. Rhizobia are living in the root nodules. Told you all this. Yes, root nodules. I just name it there. Yes, root nodule. Rhizobia living in the root nodules supply the plants with nitrites and nitrates. Root nodules, what do they supply? They supply nitrites, nitrates and amino acids to the plant. Yes, root nodules supply nitrates, nitrites and amino acids to the plant. Alright, they are giving something to the plant, and in return what are they getting, or in exchange what are they getting? They get energy in the form of carbohydrates, and not only that, they also get a place to stay in the root nodules. Alright, and such a mutually beneficial, mutually helpful or relationship is called as what? Nothing but symbiotic association. I repeat once again the point, children. Rhizobia living in the root nodules supply nitrates, nitrites and amino acids, alright, to the plant, and in exchange, what is happening? They get energy in the form of carbohydrates, and not only energy in the form of carbohydrates but also a space for them to stay in the roots nodules. And such an association, now you're saying they're mutually benefiting. From the roots, what is being absorbed? They get all the nitrites and nitrates which are necessary for the growth of this plant. Alright? They are nothing but minerals which are obtained from the ground or in the soil, which is supplied for the healthy growth of the plant, and in return what do they get? They get carbohydrates and also a place to stay by. So what is such type of an association called as? Such a type of association is called as symbiotic association. Alright. Now I'll just clarify a little more in detail there. Rhizobia produce nitrogenous compounds. So what is it? Rhizobia, what is it forming? Rhizobia produce nitrogenous compounds. Produce nitrogenous compounds. Okay, nitrogen produce nitrogenous compounds. Nitrogenous compounds. Alright. Rhizobia produce what? Nitrogenous compounds from the atmospheric nitrogen. Alright. From the atmospheric nitrogen. But for the fixation of nitrogen, they need what? They need, this is for nitrogen fixation. Yes, nitrogen fixation. But for nitrogen fixation, what is needed? They need leguminous plants. For nitrogen fixation, what is needed? They make use of these leguminous plants. And I made some leguminous plants for you there. That is beans, sweet pea, that is batana, then soya bean, etc. You can also add groundnut, fenugreek to the list over there. Yes, now these beans or pulses that you consume are very nutritious. They are very good for your health. Can anybody tell me the reason that why are we saying that they are good for the health or they are useful to us? Yes, can anybody think? I have already made use of two terms there over there. Yes, can anybody tell me why? Is it nutritious? Anybody? Okay, I'll give you the answer. The beans and pulses are rich in proteins. You all know that. They are rich in proteins. Due to what? Due to the presence of these nitrogenous compounds. They are rich in proteins due to the presence of these nitrogenous compounds, and hence from where are they made available? They are made available by the bacteria, that is Rhizobium. Hence, what type of association did we learn over here? A symbiotic association, mutually benefiting one another for their survival or helping one another to grow and live using the different components exchanging, or you can say it's a relationship between the two. Alright. Now, let us go to the uses of Rhizobium. Let us go to the uses of Rhizobium. Okay? Uses of Rhizobium. Some way or the other, they are always helpful to us. Okay? Now you know that once the crop is ready in the fields, what do we do to the crop? It has to be harvested because we do not allow it to remain in the soil for a longer period of time, right? After the harvesting of leguminous crops, that is, I told you, like beans, peas, pea, fenugreek, groundnut, etc. After harvesting a leguminous crop, the leftover roots, whatever is everything is uprooted and all those things, the leftover roots and other parts are deliberately, forcefully, knowingly put into the fields or dumped into the fields. Again I repeat, leguminous after the harvesting of the crops, the different parts, plant parts which are there of leguminous plants are deliberately dumped into the farms. Okay, why? Can anybody think why are they dumped into the farms there? What is the reason for it being dumped into the farms? It is nothing but, why? Because the root nodules contain something. What was the root? What did they contain? They contained the bacteria that is Rhizobia. Okay, they contain the bacteria that is Rhizobium. So what happens when these plant parts are dumped into the soil? What is happening? this bacterial population which is present in the plant parts is likely to help in making the soil fertile. Am I right? Because they are already present in the plant. But you know that everything, once a plant or organism dies, it starts decomposing and it gets mixed back into the soil. So same thing is happening over here. The use of rhizobium has thus reduced the use of chemical fertilizers. You have also learned in the earlier classes that too much of chemical fertilizers is not good for the growth of crops. Why? Because the soil becomes saline, the texture of the soil is spoiled, yes, and chemical fertilizers are actually harmful also, alright. So, but when we put this or dump the plant parts of leguminous plant back into the farm, what is happening? It's a natural fertilizer that is going into the soil there, okay. The use of rhizobium has thus helped to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers and the adverse effects which the chemical fertilizers can cause. Thus, it has also helped the farmers. How? Can anybody tell me how it has helped the farmers? Yes, it has burdened. The farmer always is burdened. Why? Because he has to buy fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, take care of the crops, all those things. But when leguminous plants are dumped back into the soil, the population of the rhizobia bacteria increases, makes the soil fertile again, but helps the farmer in reducing the expenses on fertilizers. Helps the farmers on reducing the expenses on farm fertilizers. Thus, has it benefited the farmer? Has it benefited the farmer, students? The answer is yes. So, have you got symbiotic bacteria, the association of the symbiotic bacteria? Okay. Now, let me tell you, there's another technology which is coming up. That is known as inoculation. Okay, inoculation. Inoculation, in simple terms, if I tell you all, is nothing but a vaccine. Alright, it is nothing but injecting something into the body of the organism for it being protected from diseases or for all the other things there. Okay, it's a vaccine like. Now you all must have heard of polio, the zindagi which is given to children, right? Yes, like that. Even you all have been taking different vaccines to treat different diseases, measles, mumps, rubella in your lower, when you all were small, your parents have always taken you to the family doctor and they have given you the various injections to protect you from the various diseases, right? That is inoculation. Here also what we see is, there is a design in science, there has been a technology which has developed, that is rhizobial inoculation, okay? Rhizobial inoculation, I term it here, rhizobial inoculation. I hope it is clear for you now. Yes, rhizobial inoculation, alright. Now let us see what this is. Rhizobial inoculation is nothing but a way of treating seeds. Okay, it's a way of treating seeds. Then let us see why it is being done. Okay, these days, that is in the recent times or as science and technology has advanced, what are they telling us? Seeds are coated with the rhizobial solution or powder. Seeds are being coated with rhizobial solution or powder before sowing. Sowing, that is when you plant or put the seeds in the soil. Yes. So what is done to the seeds? They have been coated with this powder or solution. And what happens is, after the sowing, after once the seeds are sown, what do we see? That the rhizobia enter the plant. The seeds that are sown or the saplings that are growing, the rhizobia enter these plantlets and give us a better harvest. We get a better yield. Rich, nutritious, yes, we get a better yield of crops, alright. So that is rhizobial inoculation day, alright. Now, I just want to show you a diagram there, children. And if you look into your textbooks on page number 89, you have an experiment, okay, that I'll be performing to you all when you all come to this school, that when we are one-to-one, that is when we are interacting with each other, okay. I'll just read that part for you. Take a plantlet of fenugreek or groundnut or any other bean and sterilize it with 3 to 5% of a solution of hydrogen peroxide, and afterwards keep it in 70% of ethyl alcohol. There's a procedure that is there. Okay, just go through that procedure. Okay, and when I take a cross section of that, the root nodules or the structure of the root nodule of a soya bean plant looks something like this. All right. That is here. If you see again, remember cells divide. Yes, that's they multiply. That's how growth happens in multicellular organisms. All right. This is the cell structure. All right. And you can see the cell which is divided, the cell division. You can see the growth of nodules there. You can see the bacteroid which is present in the root. All right. Then you have the conducting tissues which is also present over there. Again the bacteroid and the infected root head and the infection of bacteria which is happening in the root nodules there, or the other cap. All right, the roots over there. Just study the structure and be ready with it. All right, children, be prepared for it, and I'll show you all the cross section in the laboratory there. All right. Now we move on to the next topic, that is of yeast. You all have heard this word earlier also, yeast. You get yeast in the market there, as yeast is available in the market there. We add yeast for making our different types of foodstuffs, especially if you see bread. Yeast, bread, buns and all, we add yeast so that to the flour or to the atta that is mixed, so that the dough rises, it becomes fluffy, and the buns or bread turns out to be soft for us to consume. Okay. Now, yeast, I'll show you the diagram of yeast also over here, children. Yeast. Yes, something like this, and the body of yeast, if you see, I've also drawn it for, kept it ready over here for you. See children, this is called as the bud. Yes, this is called as the bud. Here you have the nucleus. Yes, you have the nucleus. This is the cell wall. And this is again filled with a substance. The internal region is filled in. Yes, this internal region which is there is again filled. Yes, that is nothing but the cytoplasm that you call it. Okay, if you look into the diagram, drawn a rough sketch for you there, this is the cytoplasm. Okay, the yeast body. All right, the yeast body that I am talking of. Clear? Okay. Now, yeast, let me tell you, is a heterotrophic organism. You have learned two terms in the lower classes: autotrophic, heterotrophic. Autotrophic means the plants prepare their own food. Heterotrophic means they obtain food from some other organisms or other parts. Okay, they do not have any chloroplast, so they do not prepare any food on their own with the help of chlorophyll or sunlight or carbon dioxide. Nothing of that. So what is yeast? What is the first characteristic that you need to know of the yeast? Yes, yeast is a heterotrophic unicellular organism or a heterotrophic unicellular fungus. Okay, then having a eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic means shows the presence of nucleus in the body there. All right, yeast grows and multiplies very quickly. Yeast grows and multiplies very quickly there. Yes, especially when it has got lot of carbon compounds. If it is growing in a medium of carbon compound, it grows very quickly. It multiplies very, very quickly. Okay. Yeast cells are colorless. Yeast does not have any special color. They are colorless and they are oval in shape. They are oval in shape. Some of the cells are small, round, but buds attached. This is what, when the daughter cells are being formed there. Okay. Or you can also show a structure like this. The nucleus is there, the bud is being formed over here. Alright. This also can be alright, this also can be the structure there. Yes, buds attached to it. Now, can you see the buds attached to it? That is, it is growing and multiplying, forming daughter cells there. Yes, growing and multiplying. Alright, these are nothing but daughter cells. Okay, daughter cells, children. Yeast reproduces asexually by budding. I told you, this is the bud. What is this? This is the new bud which is growing. Yes, it reproduces asexually, that is without the fusion of gametes. It reproduces asexually by the formation of bud. Hence, it follows the reproductive method of asexual reproductive method of budding. Okay, yeast cells carry out fermentation. I told you that for making breads and all bread, the flour is fermented. Okay, and during the process, what happens? It is obtaining nutrition also from the flour that is being ready over there. Yeast converts the carbohydrates. Yeast converts the carbohydrates into alcohol and carbon dioxide. And during the baking of bread, the same fermentation process of the yeast is used. That is, it rises, it makes the bread fluffy, and the bread turns out to be soft. Alright. Now, almost 1,500 different species of yeast are present today, or it is existing. Almost 1,500 different species of yeast are in existence today. Alright, children, now we move on page number 91. We have seen, they have given us a procedure of how the preparation of alcohol takes place. That is production of alcohol. Production of alcohol. Okay, production of alcohol over there. Alcohol is produced along with sugar in sugar factories. Alcohol is produced where? Along with sugar in the sugar factories. Alright. Molasses are rich in carbohydrates. Well, what is molasses? I am coming to that part also. Are rich in carbohydrates, and they are fermented with yeast called as Saccharomyces. Okay, they are fermented with the yeast called as Saccharomyces. And by this process, when the fermentation is happening, yes, what do we get? We get ethanol. We get a compound called as ethanol, which is nothing but C2H5OH, which is obtained as the main product, and even esters. Okay, but esters, nothing is specified in your textbook for you there, but I just explained. And other alcohols are obtained as a secondary product. Again, I repeat, alcohol is produced along with sugar in sugar factories. Molasses are rich in carbohydrates. They are fermented with the yeast called as Saccharomyces. And when it is fermented, what do we get? We get the ethanol, yes, which is the main product, along with its byproduct, that is esters, and other alcohols are also obtained as secondary products there. Now, ester, if I were to just explicit, I put out the term, I'll just tell you that ester is nothing but a natural organic compound. Ester is nothing but a natural organic compound that is formed by combining an acid and an alcohol. Ester is nothing but a natural organic compound that is formed by combining an acid and an alcohol. Okay, and esters are used in paint industry. And molasses, I told you all have learned, you know what is molasses. Molasses are nothing but is nothing but a thick dark brown juice obtained from raw sugarcane during the process of refining of sugar. You know, if you all go around sugar factories and all, you see they have collected molasses there, and it has a typical smell. You all hold your nose at that time there, alright. So what is molasses? Molasses is nothing but a thick brown juice obtained from raw sugar during the process of refining of sugar. Okay. Ethanol is a smokeless and highly smokeless fuel with high quality. Ethanol is smokeless and is a high quality fuel. Okay, spirit and other alcohols are also obtained from ethanol. Besides molasses, maize, barley and other grains are also used for industrial production of ethanol. Grape juices. Now you all know that grape juices contain lot of sugars. Yes, sugars such as glucose and fructose. And this juice can be fermented with the help of yeast to produce alcohol, which is later converted into wines. Okay, I hope this part is clear to you there. I'll just revise it again in the next period. I'll brief it out to you once again there. Okay, thank you so much for listening to me, children. Thank you.